And we're live. Welcome back to Shitlords of the Apocalypse, and I'm Brutus, and I'm filling in for James at the moment. Right now, it's only me and Darrin, and we figured we'd have a chat about some current events and things of that nature, and hopefully some other folks will join us along the way. But if you can't join us, you can feel free to watch us. So, I'm Brutus, and welcome aboard, Darrin Gould.
Hello there. And we're back. It's been a while, but we're back.
We're back.
You do not know the power of the dark side, but we're back.
Feel the power of the Schwartz.
I'm just trying to see if I adjust my bandwidth here. If that does it.
No video from you.
Still no video.
Good audio. Excellent audio.
Dang. Well, yeah, that's good. Well, I see my face here shining away, just as always, but for some silly reason. Profile.
Well, you're very handsome, so you're depriving the audience of,
Oh gosh, don't tell them that. I don't need all that attention, dude.
Well, yeah, you get all that attention. The next thing you know, all your mushrooms have disappeared.
Yeah, well, alleyways, and I see all the hobos there all passed out with a bottle of Aquavelva. Remembering that old commercial song, something about an Aquavelva man.
Yeah, you can find him when he's passed out from drinking it.
Think about all the crazy ways that people try to get alcohol to consume.
I just don't understand it.
Some people drink Lysol. I can't believe that.
Lysol,
like back when they used to put. Yeah. They years ago, my dad was telling me during the Prohibition and stuff like that. Back when we had Prohibition, of course, Canada and the United States had it at two different periods. But the most hardcore drunks would go and buy cans of Kiwi shoe polish or some kind of comparable shoe polish, and they would literally melt the wax and pour the wax through a couple of slices of bread. Remain suspended in the bread, and the alcohol would drip out the bottom.
Oh.
Yeah, can you imagine? Like, here I've been polishing my army boots with this stuff for years and years and years, and never thinking about that strong pungent smell. But God, you had to be fucking desperate.
Well, the thing is, too, if you're going to go to that amount of effort, it's just as easy to just make some wine in your basement.
Really? Or something.
Nobody will know the difference.
No, but see, I'll tell you how stupid it got. Back in those times, they had what they called the speakeasy, the underground liquor store or bar, I guess you could say. That was hidden out of sight, right? And they're run by usually the gangs. And people go down there to get their drinks and stuff like that, out of the sight of the law and stuff like that. But the cops would apprehend them on the street because they're impaired and everything. But the worst thing that started out of the whole deal, and probably the most hazardous, was that a lot of people started going into making corn liquor, and you can make alcohol out of coal, shit, rubber, anything, and they were actually consuming this. So they ended up with a particularly nasty liquor going around called, and people drinking, that's exactly what happened. They go blind or get liver failure, kidney failure, and it caused a lot of deaths. And it was because of that the government finally decided to turn around and lift the ban and develop what they call a liquor control board.
Well, I just don't understand why people went to such extremes when it's pretty easy to take something really accessible like an apple and turn apples into booze.
Oh shit, we used to make Applejack.
Exactly. And so why in the world would you be eating or drinking industrial crap?
Yeah.
You can just make it out of an apple.
Well, the other one was corn liquor.
If you want to make a really fine wine or something, it can take months. But most of your alcohol conversion occurs within just a few days.
Yeah, that's right. As soon as the bacteria breaks down all the sugars, that's it.
Yeah.
All that's left is just, yep.
Cracking and aging and shit like that. And if you're so unpicky, you'll drink industrial crap. You can just drink that stuff right away.
Well, next year, anyways, in Canada, marijuana will be completely legal come July 1st.
Wow.
Oh, no, it's going to be funny, and I'll tell you why, Brutus. Up here right now, people pay $90 for a carton of cigarettes.
Right.
Yeah, typically a Canadian package of cigarettes is about 25 cigarettes, so they can get them in like American style pouch packs, 20, But typically you got 8 packs a carton, 25 cigarettes a pack. $90. Under Ontario's typical tax scheme. Yeah. And nobody's buying the cigarettes at the cigarette store now, because now you can go to the Reserve and you can buy cigarettes of a bag of 200 rollies. We call them rollies.
Right.
And everyone goes to Res now to get their smokes. And the government's losing its revenue on tobacco, so now it's attacking the vape community because the vapors are smoking at considerably less cost, because it doesn't cost much to vape.
It's not taxed. There's no excise
And
tax on
most
it.
people take up vaping to quit smoking, because on one end of the scale, the government says shame on you for smoking, but on the other end, it says shame on you for trying to quit.
Well, yeah,
Now,
and that's a real problem, because the revenue, they derive gobs of revenue. Most of the price of these things is taxed.
A carton of cigarettes out of the Reserve that's comparable to a carton that you'd buy in the city for around $20 to $30, depending on what you get. And any tobacco you want, but yeah, you can buy bags of rollies for $10 to $12, 200 cigarettes. Oh, sure, it's not the greatest tasting tobacco, and it's full of roost and shit. You got bad eaters, but it smokes, right? So fear has literally driven the cigarette industry right into the ground. All the major Canadian tobacco producers that used to operate up here, like Imperial Tobacco, RJR McDonald, and whatnot, they've all moved down to Mexico now.
Yeah.
All the main top brand Canadian cigarettes are now produced in Mexico and shipped up here.
Right.
Supposedly with Canadian tobacco. Well, now they're legalizing marijuana on July 1st. And my guess is the government, this will reduce crime. Cops won't be so busy with this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And we'll make some tax revenue on it. And the Canadian government, they'll get too greedy. A $3 street joint's now going to cost them $6, $7, whatever.
And pretty soon you're going to have black market marijuana.
Yep, and well, that's it. Everyone will just go back underground again.
In order to avoid the heavy taxation, yeah.
And judging from what Premier Kathleen Wynne has said this week as far as Ontario goes, it doesn't sound like she's learned her lesson at all, because she's probably done more to create an underground economy than any premier I know. Well, this chick don't get it.
Here, there's kind of a, it's kind of funny, really. I mean, if you think lighting shit on fire and inhaling the smoke from it is probably not healthy. I'm not saying it's necessarily unhealthy, because we evolved for 100,000 years with fire and a campfire in a cave, and so we're probably adapted to put up with it to some degree.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't matter if it was tobacco or if it was lettuce leaves or oak leaves or marijuana. Anything you're lighting on fire and you're inhaling is going to create some stuff that is not good for you, specifically.
Exactly.
Right. And the thing that's really funny is that they have all of this investment into telling you how horrible smoking tobacco is, and they have almost no investment telling you that it can be dangerous to inhale marijuana smoke. Yeah. And the thing is, if you look at it, marijuana contains a lot more things that could be dangerous. Now, I'm not saying a person should or shouldn't do it, or it should or shouldn't be legal. I think people should be able to do things that might harm them on the basis of their own recognizance,
Well,
you should at least afford it.
yeah, the funny part here is that the government makes up the most sensational commercials, like the radio commercials. It sounded like a dumb kid made them up, and to make it sound like this is a contraband cigarette in Ontario. You're supporting gangs, drugs, crime, and it's like, really? I don't see anyone out there shooting anybody up for fucking reserve cigarettes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a much bigger problem with like the Mohawk Reservation, which straddles the U.S. Canadian border.
No, same here, Kanawaki, yeah.
Kanawaki,
Kanesatake, yeah. Over here on this end is Six Nations.
Cigarettes.
Oh yeah. Fully automatic assault rifles.
Yeah, a lot of shit gets smuggled.
Oh yeah. Oh, they're getting ready for the next big Oka. Remember Oka?
No.
Oh, you didn't hear about that? Oh, that happened back a number of years ago. You can watch the whole thing on YouTube. Outside of the Kanawaki Reserve on the Quebec side, there's a small town in Quebec called Oka, OKA, which is also famous for its soft brie cheeses and stuff like that, ripened cheese, camembert, that part of Quebec,
Very French.
The old, yeah, oh, very much so. But anyhow, there was a golf course, and the mayor of Oka decided to just go ahead and turn it from an 8-hole golf course to a 19-hole golf course, or whatever the hell. It was just originally a small golf course, but he wanted a full 19-hole golf course. So they immediately slated a good chunk of a certain area called the Pines to be taken down and flattened out and whatnot to use to expand the golf course. But little did they know it was supposedly a Mohawk burial ground and native burial area. And of course, that triggered off the Mohawks, and it literally turned into a war. The large barricade shut down the highway going over to the Mercier Bridge and a whole bunch of other areas wherever they had any control over the land. And a big shootout occurred between the Quebec provincial police and the natives.
Right.
Now, there's been a lot of debate on whether the Soretta cop, Soretta is just the police, the provincial police or state patrol. Soretta do Quebec, or some people say the Soretta. Same thing, state patrol. Anyhow, they got into a standoff with the Mohawks, and then the shooting began. And the Mohawks claimed that they didn't fire directly at any of the cops. They shot directly up in the air over the barricade. And now there's been some revealing information about the fact that, and it seems like the government's trying to hide it too, is that the police officer was likely hit by one of his own. Anyways, as a result of that incident, the Canadian forces got brought in. Of course, what does our stupid government do at the time? They send in, of all things, French Canadian troops from the Royal 22nd Regiment, the Van News. Going to sit well with the Iroquois anyhow, because they've always been, like it or not, traditional enemies to the French anyhow. And most of the Mohawks there speak English. There might be a few that do speak some French, but most of them there still speak English. And a lot of them are also New York City iron workers.
Right.
Travel back and forth between the city and the reserve, through the weekends and stuff like that. Characters in that event. They put in the Royal 22nd Regiment. There's a big face-off between a big native guy called Lasagna and a short little private, I would say. But anyhow, French-Canadian private, and they have a big face-off. And it's like a stare down in the middle of the whole confrontation. Nothing became of it. Later on, that private got busted for doing coke and penalized and thrown out of the army. But back when they were really, really stringent on drugs in the armed forces, I'm surprised you didn't get 5 years in the glass house in Edmonton. But that'd be the fate of most soldiers. But anyhow, yeah, no, they had to call in the Canadian Army to get this whole thing under control. and even the Canadian military was just at a point where they deal with it any longer because the Mohawks don't want to negotiate after sundown. That's their tradition, I guess. And keep push around the clock and whatnot, and they started working to back off. Well, the mayor Boca got told off, I guess, by the feds and said, "Don't you dare put another golf course there." Yeah, so
well, yeah,
it finally ended. The standoff did finally end. They even most of the Quebecers were sympathetic towards them somewhat, and they still go there and buy all their smokes and their gas and whatnot. Tell the provincial government to. And it's the same thing's happening. Yeah, here where I am, it's the Six Nations Reserve. That's actually where I'm at. It's the very first Iroquois reserve up here in the north. They result of the Haldimand Treaty, or the Haldimand Tract, which runs the Grand River, and the Treaty of Albany. And what's the other treaty there? The Haldimand Treaty, the Treaty of Albany, and another critical treaty in the U.S. because at the time, under the leadership of Joseph Brant, the natives didn't really know where they stood with the United States government after the American Revolution, because typically the Iroquois sided with the British.
Right.
Almost always. And were sworn enemies to the French. And then they got dragged into it with the War of 1812, 1814 as well with the British. So naturally so, they didn't know where the standings were. But traditionally they come from the southern part, well, the very southern shore of Lake Ontario.
Right.
To the Adirondack Range in New York. The very last group to join was Oneidas. Before that was just Mohawk, Seneca, Tuscarora, Onondaga, Cayuga. And then the Oneidas joined later on, so it became Six Nations. So anyways, under Joseph Brant, they came north to Canada to flee possible persecution. But once the Treaty of Albany was agreed upon, that a good number of them returned, a good number stayed here. So that's why they're still here today. And then other Mohawk reserves popped up afterwards. We've got at least 1, 2, 3, probably at least 6 Iroquois reserves here in Ontario. And there's going to be a whole bunch of them in Quebec. Kanesatake, and then there's one that's just on the fringes of probably line of Vermont there, like Derby line in those areas. I once went through northern New Hampshire. I had to go through it. There's several on the New York side, like down near Watertown.
Right.
New York. And there's one I went through just it borders Vermont and Quebec. And one time I had to take 2 portable houses over to a town called Eustis, Maine. It was just like I wouldn't even call it a town, just a spot on the map, and a lot of moose hazards. But hey, northern New Hampshire is beautiful. Yeah, it's a beautiful state you live in, at least in the north end. I didn't care for Concord, of course, but then nobody writes a big city anywhere.
No.
Western Mass. I love Western Mass. I love Northern Mass too. I just don't care for Boston. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you get out towards Orange or once you get west of Orange in Massachusetts, it's beautiful, and the Berkshires are beautiful.
Oh, I love the Berkshires. Yeah.
Once you get north of Concord in New Hampshire, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I'd park at Lee, Mass a lot. They had a pretty good truck stop there at the time, and the only other one was the Pride truck stop in Chicopee, Mass. There.
Yep.
Stop at and whatnot. They had a pretty decent restaurant there, but other than that, I never went beyond Sturbridge if I didn't have to.
Vermont is really pretty too, and the whole portions of New York running along the Adirondacks are just beautiful. Great hunting up there too. Deer, bear. It's really, really nice.
Oh.
Of course, the
our hunting season's still
been in depression since before I was born.
Yeah.
So that's sad.
Well, no, like I said, I usually park at least in Sturbridge, and I don't go any further because it's no point in trying to put up with Boston rush hour and whatnot. I just wait till the wee early morning hours, like around 3:30 or whatever. Locate my customer spot, and then I would just head right in there before the rush hour started up and go and grab a few more hours sleep.
Well, that makes good sense. The Boston area is horrific.
Oh, what they call the loop there. It's been so long now. The 129, is it? 129 loop? 128, sorry, yeah. And take that around and then go up towards Gloucester there and then over to Peabody. I had one regular customer in Peabody, Mass, and in Canton on the south side. But it's kind of a funny country there. You can see a big sprawling city like Worcester.
Mhm.
And then a short distance away, you're in the countryside. You're looking at these beautiful horse farms and nice rural areas that just like absolutely stupendous.
Oh yeah, you get north
just
of
kind of,
Worcester, take 190 from Worcester up towards Leominster.
yeah.
Beautiful area.
I didn't mind Lowell so much. Lowell kind of reminded me of an East Coast Canadian town.
Lowell is nasty, and Lawrence is worse. So,
Is it? Really? I've been
oh
both
yeah.
those places, and I never had any problems there. But just hate the traffic. That's all.
Well,
And,
the traffic getting through them can be horrendous. The real problem is that those particular cities, Lowell and Lawrence more so,
Yeah.
have become taken over almost completely third world immigration, and
Yeah.
the corruption from top to bottom in those cities has become really horrendous. Similar to a mini Chicago there, except
Yeah, I was going to say sort of like Chicago. Yeah.
yeah, except it's predominantly people from south of the border, and
Yeah.
there's the drug crime, there's the your girl took my girl crime or something.
Yeah.
Like that. You get the idea. And then there's all these shootouts,
Yep.
clubs, and everything, and it has become pretty. It's become an unsafe place to be.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing I couldn't handle there, kind of bothered me a little, is because the states, the New England states, don't have any permanent way stations except for maybe Connecticut.
Yeah. Well,
You couldn't go into a
one.
service plaza there without fucking having a DOT man waiting for me, to chalk my tires or something. And I'd jump out and he'd go, typical New England accent, Canada, eh? This guy sounds like a, definite Bostonian, eh? Yeah. Let me see a driver's license, Okay.
Well, what you're supposed to do when they say Canada A is apologize for it.
No, it's funny. And so then I started playing dumb with him. He says, "Where you going?" I says, "Worcester." He goes, "Worcester?" He says, "You mean Worcester?" And I says, "Yeah, Worcester." And then he says, "You don't have a CDL?" I says, "Yes, I do. That's a CDL." He goes, "No, it's not. It says here AZ." And I says, "No, that's a CDL." He goes, "No, it's not." And I says, "Yes, it is." And he goes, I says, "Look, it's a CDL, a Canadian driver's license." This is usually a mass state trooper. You know how they come out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
And
he's
going all over my truck with a flashlight, and I'm sitting there with a coffee looking at him stone stupid, with his Gestapo light in my face. And he tried to find something to ding me with, or whatever, and I just kind of like sit there, I don't give a shit. He just looked so puzzled, and I thought, well, at least a state patrolman, you'd think they'd have some amount of education and some knowledge, about the. Oh, some of them were as dumb as doornails.
Well, especially with the existence of NAFTA, there has been a tremendous amount of pretty much a free flow of trucking from Canada, especially in the Northeast. You're going to see a lot of Canadian trucking. So they should have at least been somewhat familiar with it.
Well, you'd think, but you'd think that the state departments and the various transportation boards and alliances, because we're all interconnected now under a thing called the Interstate Fuel Tax Agreement, the Reciprocity Agreement. I don't know if you remember much about trucks years way back, but when I first started trucking, over the truck for every state, and for New England we had the bingo card.
you paid a certain amount of tax for every state you were in.
Yeah, yeah. And for New England, we had what they called the bingo card, which went on the side of the truck, and you had a stamp for each individual New England state: Connecticut, New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont, whatever. But now you just got one sticker on the truck, and it says IFTA on it, which stands for Interstate Fuel Tax Agreement. So now you just refer to one agency or body. Taxes or refunds for each and every state or province you run through, based on how much fuel you bought, how many miles you ran, etc. So if you ran more miles in that state and buy enough fuel, then you'd owe the state some money. If, on the other hand, you bought too much fuel in that state and you didn't run enough miles through, you get a refund.
Right.
That's how it works. But now, instead of having your office or government agency try to work out separate agencies, instead of reporting it to Louisiana, Vermont, Florida, Georgia, and Kentucky, and all that stuff, it's all in-house now. So it was a good idea. It made the transport industry a lot more efficient. That, and I would hate, because quite often back in the time, Delaware was probably the worst for this. The fuel tax stickers, or your stickers on the truck, would expire, and would send you, a letter usually through your office stating that your permit's been extended to such and such a date while the new ones are being issued. Better though, the state patrolmen still pull you over, going, "Where's your sticker for Delaware? Where's your sticker for PA? Where is this?" And I showed them the paper, and they go, "I don't want to see that." And I go, "Well, it's your own State Department." Well, I think the cop went back. The one that pulled me over in Delaware, I was on my way down to Dover with, of all things, a trailer full of woolite, and I was on my way down to Delaware, and just outside of Dover, pulled me over. He went through my logs, went through my books, pretty much everything with a fine-tooth comb. And he says, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" And I says, "Well, I sure as hell know it wasn't speeding." And I says, "I wasn't driving erratically." I says, "I didn't make any bad false lane changes or illegal turns or anything." I says, "No, why'd you pull me over?" He says, "Your sticker." Well, I says,
"Which one?"
I says, "Yeah." I says, "Which one?" Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And because it could have been anything, could have been heavy use tax as well. And, I just said to him, I says, "Well, I was told by my office that we have an extension on Delaware because they haven't got the current rounds of stickers produced or distributed yet." So he kind of gave me sort of a bit of a sneer and whatnot. He went back to his cruiser, and I just sat there, updating my logbook to reflect that, he pulled me over. And I'm going to spend at least 15 minutes, half an hour there, kind of thing. Back to me, and he says, "I got an important call to go to. See you later." he just let me go, and I'm just sitting there like, "All right, waste my time, okay?" So yeah, I went and got my load delivered.
The whole thing with trucking is basically every state in America wants its own piece of the pie if you're going to drive a truck across its roads. And they're not happy with just the fact that you pull in and buy 100 gallons of diesel and spend $300 or $400, and they'll get the tax on that. They want taxes associated with you going across the road and all that other stuff, which I can kind of understand because trucks put a load on the road. Yeah. But at the same time, there's a ton of bureaucracy associated with this. I remember where I grew up. I grew up not far off of I-81, and there was running parallel to I-81 in Virginia was Route 11. Okay. And there were scales set up on I-81 for all the trucks to pull into and get weighed. And if they weighed too much, then they'd get assessed a fine. And so everyone would get off the road, all the trucks would get off the road and go down Route 11 in order to avoid, the scales. And then they'd get back on the 81 after the scales until they decided to put scales on Route 11.
Well, Virginia's a bitch. I'll tell you something about Virginia. The southern states will let you go as much as 36 to 38,000 pounds on a set of tandems.
Right.
Virginia doesn't allow you any more than, I think, 5. And when you go through the Virginia, especially in the wintertime, when like a big heavy snowstorm runs through there, that shit is heavy and wet, and it just sticks all over the fucking truck. And I once spent 2 hours chipping snow and ice off the damn truck all the way around, from the undercarriage and everywhere, from the dollies, the landing gear, everything. I took as much off as I could. I couldn't get that thing street legal for nothing, but fucking Bland pulled me in and held my ass.
Yeah.
Now, they only wrote me a warning citation. They didn't ticket me that time because they said, well, everybody's coming in here illegal today. And it's kind of like, well, no, come on. I'm taking off as much as I could. You know, I said, I'm making an effort. And he says, well, is there anything you can dump? And I go, no, not really. You know, we'll do just open the back doors and throw it off, or undo the straps and chains, or what? You know, they're really finicky. Most states will give you at least 1,000 to 2,000 pounds allowance.
Right.
Yeah, but not Virginia. Virginia is just ultra strict when it comes to the weight thing.
Oh yeah, that's why so many truckers were taking parallel roads, avoiding the.
Well, I'm not surprised.
And it's not so much that they were necessarily overweight. It's just that they are so strict that if
occasionally
you've got 6 inches of snow on top of your truck, guess what? You're overweight.
Yeah. Oh yeah, instantly. Well, I didn't have too much of a problem with Manassas. The scales there on 95 when you're going down to Richmond or whatever, but the ones are always a headache for me are the ones that were down in what they call Bland. And Bland is on the I-77 just below Princeton, West Virginia. There into what they call Whiteville, Virginia.
Right.
Some say Whiteville, some say Whiteville. I don't know what it is, but it's that last 77 miles of the state before you go into Mount Airy, North Carolina, where Mayberry is.
Right. Right.
Deal with Barney.
I know. Hey, you were telling me before we went live that about what was it, the Hamilton Spectator?
Hamilton Spectator, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing that's funny, of course, Hamilton is in Ontario.
Yeah.
Which is not in the United States.
No.
And you're telling me that they're running constant diatribes against Donald Trump.
Constantly. It's like, what the fuck? Like, I knew it's a liberal paper. It always has been, right? But it's like, what the fuck, Spectator? You got nothing better to do? You can't come up with some really good news stories or more important things to quibble on up here in Canada? You got to constantly go on about fucking Trump this, Trump that. Every day is a new conspiracy. Fucking Melania doesn't fit the bill. She's a terrible mom. She doesn't dress right. Whatever. It's like, Jesus Christ. Like, they're just as rabid as
American media.
Even as nice, like Rachel Maddow or something like that. It's just like, it's disgusting.
Well, what's hilarious is for a long time there's been this whole big deal about so-called Russian collusion. And big investigation to Trump colluding in order to somehow influence the election, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been much to see there. I mean, basically, at best, they've committed a couple of technical violations. When I mean technical violations, if you have a meeting with a person in a diplomatic position from another country and you're not a diplomat, and that kind of stuff, and this is going to happen when you're talking about people who routinely do this kind of thing, people who are generals and in the Joint Chiefs of Staff and in the cabinet or going to be in the cabinet. It's going to happen. But if they didn't dot an I or cross a T, there might have been something like that, but there has been no proof of any actual collusion.
Yeah.
Well, of course, what has happened is a bunch of stuff has now surfaced indicating that there has been heavy-duty collusion between the Hillary Clinton group of people. And what they did is they accepted something in the neighborhood of $150 million into something called the Clinton Foundation in exchange for turning over to Russia 20% of our uranium. And at the same time, one of these dudes, this dude that Trump fired from the FBI, personally brought 10 grams of highly enriched uranium to Russia to share with them to show the quality of the product.
Is that Comey?
Yeah.
Or the other dude? Comey.
Yeah, Comey.
Fuck.
And so it's funny because one of the things that Stalin said is what you do when you're trying to bring your things forward is no matter what it is you're doing, you accuse the other side of doing it, so that they're so busy defending that they don't look at you what you're doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, you know, I don't know why they bothered getting it from the United States. I mean, good old Canada here, we'll give it to the whole fucking world. We get all kinds of it. You know, it's like, oh, here, what? Iran needs some for their so-called peaceful uses and generating electricity. Send you some uranium.
Well, you know,
whatever you need, you know.
But that was the real heavy-duty collusion. So what's really funny now is the moment that stuff came out, American media, which had been hounding on the Russia story, which is basically a story they created out of thin air, and they've been hounding on it continuously for months and months and months. Every day, some mention of it. Suddenly, dead silence.
Right. Canada will sell some can-do nuclear reactors to China because, well, you know, it's just for peaceful purposes. And,
yeah,
Canada will sell sarin nerve gas to Baghdad and Iran for peaceful purposes. We won't mention how those Kurds died.
No peaceful purpose for nerve gas.
No, there isn't.
Intended to. There is no. I mean, there's at least conceivably a peaceful purpose for some grades of uranium. You can use it for nuclear power plant or something, until you get to the highly enriched. The highly enriched is not for power plants.
We already make most of the world's medical isotopes, so what's new? We'll just keep Blind River going, or sorry, Chalk River. But they're shutting down one of the reactors this year, so they're gonna have to find other sources for these isotopes.
But what I'm wondering is, you know, when you take 10 grams, which is about half an ounce of uranium with you. I mean, first off, highly enriched uranium, it's not like the uranium ore. You can pick up uranium ore safely because there's very little uranium in it, you know?
Yeah.
But when you are bringing highly enriched uranium with you, that shit is dangerous just from the radioactivity. Carrying it close to your body can give you cancer or kill you, and it's pretty nasty shit. And I'm wondering, how in the hell do you check that through in your baggage? Hi, I'm going to be traveling to Russia now, and I've got some shit with me that if anybody just stands next to it, they're going to die. How in the hell do you?
It's that bag of bright yellow powder you got there, Darrin, in your briefcase, Darrin.
Yeah.
Cornmeal, sir.
There you go. Is that 10 grams of uranium in your pocket, or are you just really dying to kill me?
When it becomes a muffin, I call it yellow cake.
Yeah. That's what they call it, yellow cake uranium. Yeah.
No, but the anti-Trump rhetoric, I expect it from a typical, really hard left liberal rag like the Toronto Star.
Yeah.
I expect it in the Toronto Star. To some extent, even the Ottawa Citizen or the Kingston Whig Standard. Spectator, wow, they're taking it to a whole new level.
Well, you know, a lot of this really isn't about any. It's the real opposition to Trump is that Trump is not a globalist. And globalism is this whole thing, and people don't really understand what it means in practical terms. They think it just means that we get to trade with, you know, Ethiopia in exchange for walking sticks. We'll give them cars or something. It's not like that. It's not just the free movement of labor and the free movement of capital. So money and people flow, and there's no borders and no nations anymore. But there's also the same thing happens at a global corporatist level as happens with what we call our deep state. America's politicians don't really run America very much.
No.
And neither do any big countries, because the institutional memory of how to get things done within a very large entrenched bureaucracy is actually in your career civil servants. And so Trump can implement a policy, but whether or not that policy actually gets carried out, or how it is carried out, or if it's carried out in a way that is contrary to what he was trying to accomplish,
Exactly.
all surrounds this career bureaucracy. And I'm not even talking about it in a sinister way. When they say deep state, they're speaking of more sinister stuff. But just even in a non-sinister way, the career civil servant is somebody who's been there for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and who knows the ins and outs of that system and can make sure that gasoline gets to troopers in Iraq when they need it for their Humvees or when they're doing something. And the thing is, at a global corporatist level, globalism creates a whole series of these things that basically mean you're powerless. No vote you make, nothing you do can change something that will profoundly affect your life. And you're powerless. And you're being run by a handful of elitists.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Like, for example, let's looking back at Brexit. They're forced to belong to a body of power that's based out of Brussels, European Union.
Yeah.
And Britain didn't do bad on the earlier model of the EEC, but this is once they made a government that's actually not a government, or should I say it's not even a voted government or elected government. Yeah. Britain was the second largest contributor into the coffers of the EEC, or sorry, the European Union. And the unelected guys telling Britain that they have no control over their sovereignty when it comes to immigration, and to the size of their military, and stuff like that. Britons were suffering badly because of it. The money was going out faster than they were making it. And they finally said enough's enough. But unfortunately, you always got that bunch of lefties that somehow seem to think that they're better off because somebody opened up a new donut shop in their writing or something like that, you know.
Well, and they have this problem in London, as you know, has become, they have horrendous rape problems with the basically Muslim immigration. I'm not saying all Muslims are rapists or something
no,
like that.
Of course not. Yeah.
But a disproportionate number of the Muslims that they have brought into London feel free to rape the members of the native population and to engage in all manner of crime. And as a matter of fact, in some areas now, the crime rate, the armed crime rate, in a place where now people have no right to keep and bear arms for self-defense, the armed crime rate there is higher than it is in places like America, in some of our worst parts of America. And it's a result of importing a population that has no interest in actually being British. Instead, they have a bunch of people who are going to be whatever they were to start with. They're not assimilating. They just want to be what they are and do it in Britain where they can get a free lunch.
Yeah.
And a lot of this shit with the European Union, all this immigration and so forth, are driven by the idea of taking from those who have and giving it to those who don't. And under the assumption that the difference between those who have and those who do not have has nothing to do with merit or anything like that. It's that those who don't have because they're being oppressed.
Yeah.
It's not because, you know, this group of people worked hard, sacrificed, and has for generations contributed more than they needed to in their own lifetime to build a future. No, it can only be because, you know, you over here in Bangladesh were somehow being oppressed by the Brits. And this is why you get to come to Britain and live on welfare and rape British kids.
Yeah. Yeah, well, won't be long before that starts happening here. We're getting more and more instances every day, and the media keeps trying to hide it.
Well,
but it comes out of the woodwork, you know.
And this is a problem we have with media overall, and we've seen it now with Twitter, to a lesser degree with Facebook, but a lot of platforms are basically saying if you tell the truth about, like the rape gangs in Stockholm, Sweden, the fact that there are entire places in Sweden now where you cannot go if you have a politically incorrect skin color, or you'll just be killed. You have no right to be there anymore because you're not from Africa or wherever.
That's right.
But if you tell the truth about that now in Stockholm, you go to jail. And in England, they've gotten to the point where since they can't censor what people have said on the internet, and it's bypassing the controlled media that that hide this from people, they have made like 3,000 arrests in the past year for people saying things like, hey, we're having a problem here with foreigners raping us. You can't say that without getting arrested. And that's a serious problem. And of course, the internet has given them fits. So now what they've done is they've said, okay, we have cops now who they can't seem to prevent rapes, but what they can do is they can sit on their ass in front of their computers and they can watch everything you fucking post on Facebook. And if you post something that they don't like, they can arrest you. They have plenty of time to do that, which shows how committed they are. I mean, when you think about it, when you and I do a transaction, there's something in it for you, something in it for me. What is so important that the powers that be are getting out of the immigration of relatively unskilled people, that they are willing to sacrifice the well-being of their citizens in order to get it? What are they getting?
I know. I keep wondering that myself. What are they thinking?
I think it's that they want to replace the population with something that they think would be more amenable to a dictatorship. Because most of these people came from dictatorships, so they're used to it.
But what the thing is with a lot of Middle Eastern countries, though, they conform, but they conform under a certain level of threat.
Well, right? That's what I mean. They want to have a population that is amenable to totalitarian dictatorial rule.
Keep in mind, like, for example, after the Soviet Union left Afghanistan, all right, the people largely there are there's various groups there, but the Pashtun, which is the most powerful group, which you also know as the Taliban, got control easily. But nobody complained about it. As brutal as the Taliban were, and the fact that nobody really liked them, they let them take power. And the only reason they did is because for them, it was some form of order.
Yeah.
In place at the time that the Soviets left.
Well, yeah. I mean, people do have a need for order. It's like even in Somalia, which is basically anarchy. Yeah. If anybody wants to know what anarchy looks like, I want anarchy. I'm an anarchist. Really?
Yeah.
Look at Somalia.
Oh, yeah.
But what you have there is you have order established within the context of warlords. Various warlords. You affiliate yourself with a certain warlord in order to have protection.
Well, as I see it here, like, for example, here on the North American continent, these two countries have had very close relationship for a very, very long time, even though former enemies, but the people came from the same backgrounds, the same stock of Europeans and stuff like that. We have a lot of shared traditions, of course.
Countries.
Yeah, we have a lot of shared traditions and interests as well. Common features are, as far as Christian heritage goes, Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, things like that. I don't even, I could easily just call myself a North American and leave it at that, because it doesn't matter where I go in the States or Canada, I'm perfectly at home, as I think. But on the same token, because there is a border, two different established governments on each side of the border with, a different run. The fact remains is that my U.S. partner, but that doesn't break my identity as a Canadian per se, nor should it.
No.
I'm sure we got a lot of problems that the United States doesn't like, granted, you know, we could say the same the other way. But the thing is, I don't worry about it because it's not my problem.
Right.
They're going to decide that. I can't do or say anything about it.
Which is one of the
Okay,
things
so
that
what?
makes
My
it
grandmother's
really
American then. Yeah, my grandmother's American, but that doesn't give me exclusive rights to run down over the border and criticize Trump supporters or Hillary supporters or whatever. I have to accept what the existing population of people decide on. And they did that, and they did that through a perfectly legal election, run in a very appropriate manner. And it's still not good enough. And I can still trade with the United States and not have to sacrifice those things that I supposedly value, if there's really anything at all. I quite frankly, if the United States took me over, I wouldn't give a shit. I'd get my gun rights back. I'd probably lose my health care, but that's my, you know.
Well, yeah, but if you were working a job, though, you would get.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have some kind of coverage for sure. Yeah.
You'd have coverage to your job, and most jobs cover you pretty well. Hey, do you feel like doing a monologue? Because I'm gonna take a quick break here.
Yeah, if you want, sure.
I have to go tread upon the downtrodden and subjugate the meek.
Oh, do it.
Because I have politically correct skin color.
Okay. See you in how many minutes?
Oh, hey, you can chat with Jawara. Welcome,
Jawara just got it.
How you guys
get the volume together.
I have to turn up your volume a little. Speak again, Jawara.
Oh, it's only 2 people today.
Yeah, now it's 3, but it's going to be 2 for a minute because I'm taking a quick break. You 2 chat.
How you doing, Jawara?
Brother Darrin.
How you doing? Good?
I'm about to, this week, I'm going to start working on this new book it's called Mind Physics, How to Survive Hell on Earth.
Send me a copy. I could use it.
I got to send you a message on Facebook. You know, some of my friends like committed suicide and stuff.
Oh, shit. Yeah, we've had a few this week.
I'll send you a message in the chat, like a guy I used to work with. I talked about him on one of the other shows. He worked for the U.S. Mint. He retired after 20 years. Then he became an actor on this show called House of Cards. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna show you his profile. And he just like shot himself in the head and checked out. I'm like, if you had a good job for 20 years with the U.S. Mint, retirement, financial security, because he was 63, but then when he got 62, then he had Social Security in there. Nice place to live, women, now an actor, and blow your head off. Then what the heck are regular people like us supposed to do? And like it does.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people that have everything in life, but they're still not happy.
I just don't get it.
I mean, I lost everything I've ever worked for.
And you're still here. And you're still here.
Well, I don't know how or why, but I am. But I got some good news. I went to my heart surgeon. I had a new scan and ECG done, and my blockages have all cleared up. It's running normal. So I'm in good health, apparently. And I stopped taking the Plavix at the end of the month, and after that, I'm just taking Lipitor and aspirin once a day, and I'm good. That heart issue's now settled. And I can just concentrate on my diabetic issues, and that's it. So one less thing to run over. So I'm kind of happy about that. But yeah, I know I belong to one group called Big Tau Worldwide. We had another Big Tau guy this week, Bill Roth or something like that. He committed suicide.
What?
He was quite successful.
I just don't get it.
Yeah.
What's a regular person supposed to do?
Yeah, I don't think happiness can always be measured in money, though. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. I've lived minimalist before throughout my life at various points, so I've gotten used to hard times. I've gotten used to good times and then hard times again, good times again, and back and forth. So I guess I don't really think about it. I just figure it is what it is, and I got to live with it. But other people, it's just something that they can't deal with it. You know, for whatever it is that's upsetting them, they deal with it. It doesn't matter how much or how little they have. It's more than they can bear, and they bump themselves off for whatever number of reasons. Depression issues are more serious than ever before, and I think part of the problem is society's overstressed. Everyone's working ridiculous hours, going against their sleep clocks, and deciding from one day to the next if they're going to have or, you know, some groceries in the fridge or one thing or another. And in an uncertain world, people are just going to lose their marbles. If you're not a person that's, yeah.
I was telling him about a Facebook friend who committed suicide. And like, if you look at his life, it seems like everything was just, you know, government retirement after 20 years from a nice job, money. Then when he was 62, add Social Security to that. Then he became an extra on this show called House of Cards. Women like 10 years younger than him, financial security, nice place to live, people that loved him, and shot himself. So I'm like, if you had all that set up and you killed yourself, what is a regular person supposed to do who has no retirement, no financial security, no 20 years that they can walk, that they can, you know, draw money from? Like if somebody like that would break, then what about like normal society?
Quick question here, Jawara. Can you see my face?
Yeah, it's real close to your face.
Oh, okay. Brutus, for some reason, you can't see my face.
No, I can't see you guys. I mean, I see Jawara's actually, I think. No, yeah, I see Jawara's thingy, you know.
Okay.
I don't see anybody's video.
Wow. Okay.
I don't even know if this thing is switching back and forth between different people when they speak as it's supposed to be.
No, you're just staying where you are, Brutus. You're not moving at all. Just when you're talking and whatnot. But your screen's not going off or on or anything like that, or back and forth between conversations.
Yeah, I don't even know how to make it do that. I just tried to make it so Jawara's is showing up and nothing.
Yeah, I see Jawara fine.
Huh.
And apparently he sees me, but we can't see you.
Very, very strange.
Yeah.
I think a lot of things are affecting the depression. I mean, thinking about it long term, a lot of things have changed very fast for people. Money as we know it for the average person didn't even exist until a couple hundred years ago. Most people lived in a cashless society. And now, of course, we're at a place where you have bills that must be paid within X days, or you don't have electricity, or you don't have water, which is a unique pressure that really hasn't affected people until very recently in history. And also where you live, things like that, has never been a question for most of human history. You lived with the people who gave birth to you and with the people who gave birth to. And in that community, and you had a support system and stuff in place. And
yeah, but you can't. It's the thing that a lot of people make the mistake on, is that they automatically assume that wealth means happiness. I can tell you, I've known lots of people that are millionaires. I've known them personally. And one of the first things they'll tell me is, you know what, Darrin? I got to put up every day with somebody trying to figure out, take that money out of my pocket. Every damn day. You know, they have to literally put a private fence around their properties and shit like that. And there's always somebody trying to swindle them constantly. Let's look at the Las Vegas shooter. Whatever reasons he did what he did, the guy wasn't bad off. He was quite wealthy, apparently.
Yeah.
And he unloaded on a bunch of people, and then when he was done, he shot himself. Explain that.
Well, I think there's a lot of stuff we don't know about that still.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, there's like everything else.
Yeah, unfortunately. But I think the thing that most people require is a bit of struggle. I it's almost an accepted thing that people can be raised by wealthy parents, have no struggle in the world, and then die from a drug overdose.
Yeah.
I mean, we know about Prince and Michael Jackson wound up with huge addiction issues that wound up killing them.
Yeah.
And these are people who were incredibly wealthy. I think that struggle is one thing that people need, and I think connection is another thing people need. Without those two things, I think that people can't really be content.
Well, again, like this is kind of where I get where like James comes from on this issue, but it's easy to be pushed to a suicidal thinking when you've been to the point where you can't hardly get back up on your feet again.
Well, yeah, that's an extreme case.
And I'll even admit it up front right now. I've contemplated it a few times myself. I'd probably in a lot of cases be better off fucking dead. That is not what I want to say, but that's how I feel. And when you get that feeling inside, no. But the thing is, I'm trying to bounce back. It's not a cakewalk either. No. But there's just some days you just want to quit because you just get too tired of waking up every morning, worn out, mentally drained, loss of sleep, and then you stop looking after yourself properly. You're not, being hygienic enough. You're affecting your diet or not eating enough of what you should be eating or whatever. And your senses are totally numbed. And sometimes you snap out of it for brief seconds, and sometimes you're just in it for so long, and it seems like an endless tunnel. And I think at that point, when people reach that stage, that's where they'll most likely do harm themselves, when that tunnel seems to have no end to it. Light is just not there.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of times we have a society that pushes people to that, who are ordinary people. And it's very, we have created a society that is very heartless.
Yeah.
Is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, it is. It's put it this way. If I drive up the 403 or the 401 highway or the Queen Elizabeth Way or something like that, and there's a pickup truck out on, let's say, in the middle lane, and it's got a dog in the back of the pickup truck, and I'll guarantee this is how it'll go. If that dog spots a rabbit or a mouse or something and decides to go after it, it jumps out of the back of that tailgate, people are going to be screeching tires and burning rubber and spinning out of control trying to avoid hitting that dog. Yep. They'll do everything they can to avoid hitting that dog.
Yep.
Hell, they'll even drive into the concrete abutment if they have to avoid hitting that dog.
Right.
Now, I've seen this with my own two eyes. Okay. And I've also seen this with my own two eyes. When a car gets into a serious collision, you see the body get flung through the front window and out onto the tarmac. You know what the cars do?
They swerve to get out of the way.
They just keep driving right on over it.
Yeah.
Yep, they'll just keep driving right over it. They'll hit it. They'll smash it. They'll just keep driving right over it. They don't give a fuck. Now, don't get me wrong. I love dogs, but I value human life much more than an animal.
And there are still people who do value life like that, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. But even today, and I would say this anywhere, I could say this in any state, any province, any major city, announced that they're going to have a fight to the death gladiator fight at a certain time and place, at a certain Coliseum or Astrodome or whatever. I bet you people would be fighting by the droves to get in there, and they'd be almost killing each other just to get in, to see it. And that's how we become as a society. That's pretty sad. We don't care about our fellow man anymore. We don't care about our neighbors. We got no community. And we're all too easily swayed to be divided along, racial lines and religious lines and political lines. And we've forgotten how to look after each other. Together. Right? That's sad. That really is. And that's probably one of the things I hate about my existence. I see it all the time. And, you know, it's like, I'm not like that. Why are they? And I try to find a reason as to why. I can't. But, you know, I still cope, and I try to strive to move on, which I'm doing. But I can understand why people finally take that sudden end to their situation. And
the people that killed, the people that commit suicide that had pensions, if you talk to them like 5 years before their retirement came up, they'd be like, "Oh, just 5 more years and I'm out of here.
Yeah.
4 years left and then I'm gonna retire. 2 more years. This is my last year." And it seems like, you know, a couple of years ago, you thought it would be so wonderful when you retired and your pension kicked in and you set everything up so that you would be comfortable. And then once you get all that organized, you're financially secure everywhere, then you shoot yourself in the head.
Yeah. Hold that thought for a second. I'm just going to go clear my throat quickly.
All right.
Had a really, really bad cold this week, so I'm really coughing up a lot of phlegm and crap. Throat gets sore and itchy, hard to talk. But how are things going with you?
Well, it seems like you might be a great gift to younger guys because you're like 20-year version beyond what some guys are going through. Because I'm like a late starter. Because like first time I had sex, I was 21, and you know I'm like way behind because you know the guys in school they were messing around in like 8th grade, 7th grade. By the time they were my age, they had like you know they'll tell you like I slept with 200 girls, 300 girls, married a couple of times, and I'm just like way behind. Now I'm on.
But you,
I'm on these two.
You can't.
Yeah,
you can't approach things like that like a competition, or you should have done it by a certain.
I'm trying not to compare myself to other people, but
no, you shouldn't. Everybody's different, buddy.
You know what? Remember that girl that came from the Bahamas, and she was really
yeah.
She was supposed to stay for 3. She wouldn't even let me touch her. I went to touch her. She pulled my hand off. I mean, it's been like a cursed existence as far as like romance and stuff. But now that Trump is in, it was this girl. I tried to talk to her for like 3 years, and she ignored me. But she's on Section 8 now. Trump cutting a lot of those programs. So I was playing with her on Facebook, and I was like, "Hey, can I pick you up and bring you to my house?" Yes. Come to your house. Because now she's trying to be all cooperative. So I can move her in, which I'm not, but I didn't pick her up. But then all the girls on Tinder, first conversation, they want to get married and have a baby. Every single one of them.
Oh, yeah.
And then like this girl that I spoke to from Plenty of Fish from yesterday, she said she's from Guyana. She's here on a visa. And you know, Trump set up something where those visas end, some work visas end in a couple of months or something. So she has to get married or have a child or something. And so many of these girls are like all cooperative now. because if Section 8 is going, I have this huge house with acres of land all by myself, which somehow got online against my will.
A lot of these women today, they just want your sustenance and for provision. That's it.
Woman.
But I'm saying, I wish I had the skill. I wish I had the seduction skill to pump and dump, but I don't have it. Because I would run through all these girls, but now they're all cooperating because they all need a place to stay. All these women thrown off of Section 8, all these women on work visas about to get kicked out of the country. They're being really nice and cooperative now because they want to get married real quick. Stay here. And I'm just trying to think how I can get all these women from like all over the world that are going to have to leave soon. They're like all over, Plenty of Fish, Tinder, all these dating sites. I met like 8 of them, and then like I met one, and then she's in the car, and then she says, if you're not looking to get married, then I'm wasting my time. What do you feel? I'm like, this is the conversation we're not supposed to have until like the 6 months of talking. And they're all rushing for marriage and babies. Some of the girls are like 40 years old, 42.
I'll tell you. Sheila and I went to a stag and doe the last weekend with her friend and her friend's boyfriend. And while we were at the stag and doe, we were standing outside the Ukrainian Canadian Club, which is where it was being held at. And, we're all mildly fuzzy. And just down the street was this little roadhouse bar, There's just a whole bunch of chicks outside standing out having a cigarette. And I says to Lloyd, I need to use the bathroom. Let's go into that bar quick and take a quick look. And we walked in. There was not a guy anywhere to be seen, but there was all kinds of chicks there all by themselves.
Dang.
And I'm going, damn, if this was around back in my 20s.
This is cute. This cute woman on Tinder, she looks tropical, like I don't know, Brazilian and Ethiopian, that exotic look.
Yeah.
First thing she says is, I'm trying to get married. I'm not looking for marriage. I'm wasting my time. And they're just so like bold. She says she wants a marriage and a baby. And I'm like, you're 50 years old. She's got a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old in Guyana, 21-year-old daughter here, and she's working on a work visa, but she's not married. So she's like real cooperative. But these are the same women that under Obama, they were like, I'm independent. I don't need no man.
No, I'll wager before long. I'll wager before long that before all these chicks finally realize what a bar's plenty of fish is, or dating sites and stuff like that, I would be surprised if you start seeing women showing up on YouTube with their own personal advertising for marriage.
Hey, yep. I noticed that Chase LeBeau just joined us. Are you there?
And
Chase?
Yes,
I'm here, but my iMac isn't. It's doing all kind of wonky shit.
Well, welcome aboard, sir.
Thank you.
So how'd the Falcons do tonight?
They actually came back on the Jets. They were supposed to lose this one actually because they made too many mistakes, but the Jets made more mistakes.
I'm not a big football person. Sheila and her son they were watching the game earlier, and I got to see a bit of it. So I think they're still tied when I last saw them.
That's good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a pretty common phenomenon. What Jawara is talking about, and it's definitely true. There's no nice way for me to say it. I mean, if a girl does not have access to her own resources through her own skills, like, say, for example, she's a doctor or something, or a lawyer or an Indian chief, then she, of course, will try to secure resources through a man or government. And the problem is, and this is something I can tell you, you don't marry these girls from exotic locales or knock them up, because that allows people who obviously already have no fucking skills to be here as further competition, And on top of that, once they have that kid is a lease on welfare forever. And then because of that kid, who's an automatic American because the kid was born here, that kid has all these rights that then transfer to the mommy. And then, of course, they can come after you for child support and stuff like that, just as if you had married them. And so it's a pretty bad idea to get involved with these chicks at all.
Yep.
You know, if they're like that. What I would say, I mean, it's just my thinking. I mean, if you think about it, Jawara, you're a hyper intelligent dude.
I don't know if you can read. I'm gonna try to.
You know,
No,
I mean,
way too small.
You write books that are used as college textbooks. Your standard run-of-the-mill girl is not a really good match.
The problem is I'm making what I would make if I worked a regular job. So like sometimes like the gold diggers, they might think because my family has money and I'm friends with rappers that retweet my books and all that stuff and I'm in all their cars and stuff, they feel like I'm on a higher level than I am. And then they see like I'm a regular person, like a 25-year gym teacher salary, and they're like, get confused.
Well, that's true and it's not true. I mean, income doesn't mean much. Lifestyle does, more so. I mean, if I make $100,000 a year and I'm paying $35,000 a year in tax, and then I'm having to drive back and forth to work, and I'm having to buy a new car every 3 years for driving back and forth to work, so I'm spending $10,000 a year on a car, and then I have to dress in nice clothes, and I'm spending $5,000 a year on my wardrobe. By the time you subtract out all the bullshit associated with having this $100,000 a year job, I'm no better off in terms of my disposable income than if I were making $40,000.
True. Yep. Well, see, here's another thing too, Jawara. I'll sit down in a coffee shop once in a while, and some chick will approach me and try to strike up a conversation. And they're pretty much going to have, they're going to be done they're going to be done with their interview with you within half an hour. I guarantee it. And I'm not interested, obviously, because I'm tied in with Sheila anyhow. But they'll still try to hit on me. And the first thing they say, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" I go, "Oh, fresh air inspector for the government." You know, they go, "What?" And they go, "Well, how much do you make a year?" And I go, "Oh, about $10,000. Just tell them you make $10,000.
Yep.
If they stick it out with you for more than a few hours and they want to see you again, it might be worth something. But
$10,000 is illegal. That's not even minimum wage.
I guarantee you. Yeah, I guarantee you most of them will be done through with you within the first half hour and heading out the door, and you won't see them again. Fine with me. Because
is that realistic? Because that's not even minimum wage.
No,
well,
I know.
The whole point is, you can get that stuff out of the way, but there are girls who are not that materialistic. I've certainly known some girls, believe it or not, who are not terribly materialistic, who couldn't have cared less how much money you had.
Just freaking hard to find.
You know one place you're likely to find them, strangely enough.
Is that like 30 years ago?
No, actually, no. No, I've known quite a few even recently. And it's just a matter of where you meet them and how you meet them and how you present.
Yeah.
I've met some girls that were fantastic at libertarian hangouts. Who were not very materialistic.
Yeah.
And, you know, just like the Pork Fest, the big libertarian get together where a bunch of libertarian and anarchist people come and hang out. And it's a bit too degenerate for me, to be honest. But at the same time, these girls tend to be not very materialistic at all. And that's a very interesting thing. Now, they like the fact that you're smart. And I've run into a lot of girls who have a smart guy fetish. And that's cool, but you know, they all tend to be a bit too degenerate.
Marty,
this is in the message. I said to the girl, "I like your exotic look," and she says, "Okay, Are you married? Do you have kids? This is
Yeah.
the girl. This is the foreign girl. She's in New Jersey now, but she's on a work visa. She's working at a daycare. But look. So I said, no wife, no children. What are you looking for? Do you speak any other languages? She says, well, I think I am looking for my husband if God permit that to be.
Yes.
This is
See,
just one girl, but that's how she starts off the conversation.
well, this do you already have kid things is important. Here's the thing. In the child support formulas, if you've got one kid, you spend, I think it's a quarter of your income goes to like your ex-girlfriend with the kid, right? If you have two, it's only like a third. Okay. So if you've got two from two different women, they split that third. 16% goes to one, 16% goes to the other. That's a hell of a lot less than 25%. Okay, so if you already have kids, that total child support burden is going to get divided, and she's not going to get nearly as much. Why in the world bother with a girl who's here on a work permit? You know, there's plenty of girls here who aren't.
But look what she says. She says, I said to her, what happened when you were 18 to 39 that you found no husband? She said, I am looking for that loving husband and earnest baby. So I said, do you drive? She says, no, I always get hurt. And that is why I am here to see if my soulmate are here. So that's why they ask if you have children, because it's more money if you have your first child. So if I had 3 children already, she wouldn't get that much.
No, unless they're grown, because now you can start paying child support all over again.
Crazy.
Yeah, so that's why it's important that you don't already have kids with some other woman. See?
So since you're such a genius, how can I run through all these Brazilian women and foreign women and exotic women here on work visas without marrying them and without giving them any children? Because like Tom Likas says, don't bring them to your house, but they all live in crazy situations where it's like this woman is living with her daughter and her daughter's husband, and her daughter's like 19 and the husband is 20, and it's like 7 people in a 3-bedroom house. None of them are like living like one person in the whole spot. Like,
well, here's the sad truth, whether you like it or not, and this is the truth. If you got a fat wallet, you can get anything you want, Jawara. Okay.
Well, and that's what I was going to say.
But it's keeping them.
It's a hotel.
That'd be too expensive. That'd cost me like $300 a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. But see, that's how you make sure they don't know who you are. You're a businessman. You have flown in from Atlanta and you're hanging out in New Jersey while you're doing some business meetings. And right now you're in the hotel and your name is Joe Schmo. And that's how you pull that shit off. You get some, and you make up some business cards that you print off on your inkjet printer that have your name and your fancy title. And you can drag shit out with girls like that fairly easy. But you do have to have money to start with if you're going to pull that kind of game off.
That's what I'm saying. You got a wallet bad enough, you get whichever you want. But if you're thinking in terms of a relationship or partnership, not in today's environment, no. So.
And
because I'm thinking if I bring all of them to my house and then I don't marry them or impregnate them, you know, I could not be wise.
Are you wanting kids?
No. Well, I'm saying if I was dating like a doctor or somebody who, you know, made like triple my income, like responsible, and they want to have a child, you know, that's not trying to like, it has to be a certain kind of situation.
Well, yeah, if it's the right girl, you'd be interested in kids with the right girl. And what I'm kind of saying is, why waste your time with basically exposing yourself to risks in exchange for basically orgasms with women who don't matter, just to what? Have a lot of notches?
No, there's no race to. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of guys who brag about this shit and everything, and I understand why they would. And I had a phase, you know, in my early 30s where I kind of went through that kind of thing too. And I was very successful at it, but it was a very empty thing. It was it didn't buy me anything. All it did is exposed me to risk. And I was lucky that I got through it without anything bad happening. But I might not have done it, you know?
This I was trying to summarize down this girl is really cute, but she's 47. She's Colombian American, and she has looks like she has a big job. She's on LinkedIn and all this stuff.
What?
That might be a worthwhile investment. If she's from the upper classes in Colombia, I've had a girlfriend from the upper classes of Colombia. They can be very self-sufficient and can be very worthwhile. And if she's 47, she's unlikely to be getting impregnated.
Oh, but look what she said. She said some weird things, though. She says, perhaps we will meet after I return. She says, I am not married, never have been. Feel free to look at my Facebook profile. She said, when I leave, it's because I found my husband to be. When she leaves the site. And I said, why do you want to get married? She says, well, technically, if God permits, I may have children. Otherwise, there is no point, well, unless. And then she says, but I never really was open to the idea that I deserve to be happy or happily married or with someone to share my life with, and that we might grow in faith and good character together. Never mind being a mom, I thought, well, it doesn't matter now. All I know is that depriving myself of what friends and, well, others not so friendly have, I deserve to be happy and to live my life to the fullest as God planned. I'm not going to buck it anymore.
Well, that's wonderful. I mean, you know how this game works, though. When a girl is 47, she's going to have a really hard time landing a dude. And the thing is to pretend for a moment that what she's saying is true. That what she is she's a highly religious woman, and she's basically looking to get married. Even if she can't have kids, she wants to get married. What benefit is there to you in basically pumping and dumping her?
I can tell you off the air.
I mean, of course, you get the feeling of exploitation, you get the feeling of success, you get the, you know, and I can kind of understand that. But keep in mind, maybe she's lying. And maybe she's been through, at 47 years old, never married, never had kids. That girl is either ugly as hell or she a hoe. Okay? I mean, that's just the way it is.
I didn't get to ask her if she had children or not, but I don't think she does. But she was saying in the chat that no man ever wanted her and like weird things. I just sent you her Facebook profile. I'm gonna send you her LinkedIn.
If it's single, never married, stayed at home till it was 30 or more, I'd say there's something seriously wrong with it mentally. Yeah.
Well,
that's been my experience with many of them.
You know, but there's something wrong with the girl.
Yeah.
You know, everybody says like they're online for a reason and they're single for a reason. But look, she has to be smart because like on her LinkedIn profile, I just sent it to you. She's got this big job description. I don't even know what all those words mean.
That's not a big position.
Investigator, private auditor.
That's nothing. Basically, she works as a bureaucrat, probably makes $19 an hour.
But I saw a picture of her on her Facebook, and she was in a late model Mercedes. I'm like, well, Maybe I could be a gigolo.
Well, she may be she sounds like she's a fairly intelligent person. And especially since she's proficient in 3 languages. This, by the way, is not unusual for Colombians from the upper side of their strata to be very multilingual and very accomplished. Not unusual.
Yeah. Well, you never know. She could be a wealthy lady too that just wants an ordinary guy.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's plenty of girls out there who are up for pump and dump. That's their thing.
Yeah.
If there are girls out there who are not up for pump and dump, why bother with them? I mean, why not let them just be whatever it is they want to be? There are a ton of girls out there that'll sex a guy just because he's smart, or believe it or not, just because he's black, or just because he's a truck driver. There are women out there that are crazy who will fuck people for the stupidest reasons.
Yeah, but see, I don't want a one-night stand thing. I want a pump and dump, but I want it to be like several times a week until I'm finished with
Well,
it.
that's not pumping and dumping. That's a girlfriend.
Oh, this is how I found out she wanted to get married. She says, feel free to look at my Facebook profile. So I said to her, if you leave this site, my number is, and then I left her my number. And then she says, when I leave, it's because I found my husband to be. Then I found out how she was rolling. I was like, oh. I want to send Chase the profile of the girl, but I'm friends with like 4 Chases. I don't know what happened to his joints.
Oh.
Yeah, Chase comes and goes a lot.
Yeah.
Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat box in the Hangout.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, just hit over to the upper left, hit the chat thing, and then on the right-hand side, pop it right in there. Yeah.
There it is.
Can you see it, Chase?
Oh, that was actually the LinkedIn, but this is the.
Hey, Chase, you there?
Okay, yeah, I'm reading this now. Quality assurance auditor at PRA Health Sciences, Greater New York City area, pharmaceuticals. Yeah, she's well educated. Seems to have a pretty stable job.
But when you go off air, I'm gonna tell Brutus what's really going through my mind. But it's sort of attached. It's sort of attached to something you talked about a year and a half ago when you talked about a woman sending you her soiled garments. Remember that conversation?
Oh yeah, well, it was longer ago than that, but yeah, I exchanged garments with a lady, and she could even tell me how big my penis was from the smell of my garments, which was pretty damn astonishing.
What? I thought size didn't matter.
Huh?
I thought size didn't matter.
Well, it might have to her. I never, met her or anything, but for her, I guess it mattered.
Well,
but
speaks French Canadian too.
It looks like it's about time for us to go off air anyway. It's about 10:15. We've been here quite a while. We've covered a bunch of stuff while we've been here. We covered trucking regulations. We covered, the
dating regulations.
Yeah, the illegal transportation of contraband in and out of the Indian reservations that straddle the border between Canada and the U.S. We covered media bias,
uranium,
which is
uranium
nice
smuggling
to keep handy, and that kind of stuff. And of course, we've covered Jawara's love life. And unfortunately, not much other than the fact his screen is shaky.
Well, I don't know if it's hit you yet, Brutus, but you got some nasty storm fronts coming your way.
Oh yeah, I've got him. I see him. I'm experiencing him. But so we're gonna sign off. Thank you for watching the Shitlords of the Apocalypse. I love that name. You guys
Shit
love
lords
that
of the
name?
apocalypse now. Yeah.
Look, I know you can. I know you can answer this in 5 seconds. All these women that are cooperating now that Section 8 is being cut and they're getting ready to be thrown out of the country because of work visas and all that stuff. So women are like they're putting their bitch shield and bitch clothes in the closet. Is this temporary? Are they going to go back to how they were if they find
It's
what's
temporary.
like
It's
an acting
temporary.
thing? Oh,
It would only change if things changed massively. Trump, their change right now is based on apprehension, not any real structural things that Trump has done. So trust them as far as you can throw them. I know you're a strong guy, but you can't trust them that far.
yeah. I figured they were hoodwinking us.
Yeah, they are. Okay, we're signing off. Take care, everybody.
Night, Brutus. How you doing, Jay?